Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the the Mythology of Astrology. I got so excited with my psychic connection. I'm Skwirl, and today I am going to tell you the story of Pisces. Really excited about this one, y'all, and this is the first time I've ever spoken it out loud, so bear with me because I get so excited that, as you saw, I already said the astrology of mythology, and I had that backwards. But sometimes I get my Greek gods and the Roman god names mixed up, so I'll make sure I'm saying the proper ones. I'm going to be telling you predominantly the Greek story today, but I'll start out by telling you what Pisces is. Pisces is the 12th zodiac sign, and it is feminine, mutable water, and that means that it's a beautiful thing, but it can also be a very wishy-washy thing. And it's shown in the sky, the constellation. I think you can see a little bit of it behind me. What it is there are two fish bound together by a cord, either by their fins or by their tails, depending on which story version you're hearing. But they're bound by the cord so that they can never be separated. Now, the first known existence of Pisces was in ancient Sumeria from around 4000 BC. It is one of the two oldest sun signs there is, and it was known to the Sumerians as Sema, which meant fishes in Sumerian. Yes, fishes. The Greek word for this constellation was ichthyes, which meant fish, and the Latin word is Pisces, which is the name that we have for the constellation now. It's one of the earliest zodiac signs even recorded, and we have an artifact dating from around 2300 BC of the two fish being depicted on an Egyptian coffin. And that is quite possibly to show that those two fish, or those two souls, could not be separated by death and life. I freaking love that. So I'm going to jump right into the story. I'm going to be jumping into the end of another story. So if you want the whole part of the story I'm telling you about the end of, because if I told you everything, we'd be here for days. But if you want the rest of the story that I'm about to tell you that leads to Pisces, let me know, and I'll see if we can make a little video for you telling about the fight from Gaia. Okay, so we are at the end of a pantheon. The Titans rule, not the gods. And the Titans were the first creatures ever to be on Earth, and they had a iron fist. They ruled men. Humans were more slave than worshippers. They had no choice. So at the end of this era, we've got this great war raging between Gaia, the Earth Titan, and Uranus, the Sky God or Titan. And he is brutal. He's very crazy. And he has Gaia and all her children really under his control. He's abusive. He's trapped all her children inside her womb. And her children and her have no way to escape him. But finally, one day, he comes to rape her. And that's a horrible thing to say, but Gaia was unwilling. She was being raped repeatedly with her children in her womb. And her son, Kronos, who is also known as Saturn in the Roman pantheon, he had a sickle that Gaia had passed to him, and he finally got the nerve, because everybody was terrified of him. Kronos got the nerve, and he grabbed Uranus's penis and sliced it off. And then he cut open Gaia's stomach so that all the gods or all the titans could come free. And he took Uranus's penis and did like this, and he cast it into the ocean. So it's like, I know everybody's like, what led to this? So when he cast it into the ocean, it hit the ocean. You got to remember, this is like enormous. All of us would be running, but it caused this explosion of sea foam and blood and semen. And out of all of this chaos, the first god was born, Aphrodite. The Romans know her as Venus. So Aphrodite, she was born fully formed, although some people say she came from an egg. She was born fully formed in the story I know. But she's trapped in the middle of the sea, just surrounded by blood and semen and waves. And she didn't have the capability to understand where she was or how to get away from it. So there were two fish that came and saved her, and they were tied together by their tails. These were the Sumerian gods. Very, very little is actually known about the Sumerian mythology. And it's also very rare that other pantheonic gods will come into Greek or Roman mythology. But in both of them, the Sumerian fish came and saved her. And there's this beautiful classical painting called The Birth of Venus, who's also Aphrodite, where she is being escorted to land from out of the sea by two, can't call them mermen, but they were fish-tailed centaurs. They were that she was escorted by, and their names, let me find them, were Aphros and Bythos. So that is the first appearance of the Pisces fish, and they were still the ancient Sumerian gods. They were not Greek. Okay, so birth of Venus, very violent, very chaotic, right? And thousands of years go by. We're up to about 2300 BC or so, and Aphrodite has a child, Eros, who is also known as Cupid in the Roman pantheon. But this is a big deal, y'all, because very, very, very few gods were born in this day and age. And this is already, everything's in place. Zeus is the king of gods. The Titans have been overthrown, and all the gods rule over the humans with kindness sometimes and pissiness other times. They are in control, and the Titans are out of the picture. So this new child is born, Eros, and he is just so loving and so sweet and so intelligent, and everybody was celebrating. The gods decided to have a party to celebrate the birth of this beautiful new god, and they decided to have it on the river Euphrates. They invited the Egyptian gods to attend. Ibis and Isis and Ra, all of the Egyptian gods are part of this story. They were going to come and attend this. We can't really call it a christening, but the celebration of this birth of this amazing, beautiful child who struck love into everybody's heart. So Aphrodite brought the baby with her to the river Euphrates, and she and Pan, who was not a god, he was a daemon, is what they called him. He was the right hand of Zeus, Zeus's commander. He was there to protect her. And a couple of the other gods were there, just setting up, wanting to make this the best party that they could. Meanwhile, the Titans still existed. And Gaia, she was watching this. And she was really pissed, Mother Earth, the Titan, that these gods had taken over and that they were producing new gods. So she went and she had the father of all monsters made. His name was Typhon. Typhon was a giant. It's like you could almost not even see his head. He was so tall. He had the torso of a man, but each leg was this enormous viper coil that writhed and hissed as he moved. He had a mane head, but it hosted 100 snake heads that constantly screamed the sounds of all different animals with human voices mixed in. And all that's described of his human-like head were glowing red eyes that drove fear into the hearts that looked upon him, to everyone, gods and humans alike. And he had a savage jaw and he breathed fire like a dragon. He had hundreds of wings all over his body. So no matter how fast anybody ran, flew, or swam, he was most likely going to catch them. And his hands, instead of 10 fingers, were hundreds of deadly serpents with venom that would kill instantly. So Gaia had made Typhon, who ended up being the father of all monsters. And she saw this celebration being prepared. Venus and the baby, Zeus was there, and she thought, I got you now. She sent Typhon to end all of them and then to go attack Mount Olympus and kill all the gods. Because if anybody could do it, it would have been Typhon. Luckily, Pan was there. Pan had eyes and ears like nobody else. He was like the phenomenal scout. There was a reason that he was Zeus's commander. There was a reason that this creature was Zeus's right hand. And he heard the first faint thump. And he reared his head and he looked around. He put on his spidey vision and he was like, what is that noise? That sounds really menacing. And he saw Typhon hundreds of miles away, just making his way to Euphrates to get the gods. And Pan threw his head back and screamed as loud as he could. And he had this voice that could induce absolute panic in all humans and even into the Titans. Everybody froze. And they were like, what's going on? What's happening? And then they all heard thump. Titan was eating up some ground. He was coming fast. So Pan saw that everybody was like, what is that? What is that? He changed himself into the sea goat and he jumped into the river Euphrates and he was flailing around and showing everybody, change, change. This thing can't find you. Change into something else. Zeus turned into a ram. Hermes turned into an ibis. Apollo turned into a crow. Athena turned into a cat. All of the gods that were there were turning into different animals and running or swimming or flying. And there was Athena, as you were, Aphrodite. And she was like, I can't turn into anything. I can't turn into anything because I can't hold my baby and I can't leave my baby behind. She kept hearing it getting louder and closer. Thump, thump, thump. And she saw him. She froze. And she couldn't think of anything that she could change into to grab her baby and run away. Zeus was like, oh, hell no. Oh, he is not going to hurt Aphrodite. And Zeus just turned into Aquila, his giant, beautiful bird, and he came into Typhon's face, flapping and pecking and fighting him. Pan joined in. They were going to do everything they could to give Aphrodite time to run. But Typhon just grabbed Zeus, and all of those snakeheads bit into him. and Zeus turned into his humanoid form, and Typhon just pulled out his tendons, threw him on the ground. Even though Zeus would have been a great prize to kill right then and there, he was after Venus, Aphrodite, because she was the first of the gods. He wanted his prize. Pan was knocked to the side. He broke his back and couldn't move. And Aphrodite just stood there. Oh, terror and fear. She was not a warrior, and she was not leaving her baby. She held arrows close to her chest, breathing, and then she stood up and she looked at Typhon and she said, I will go down like a warrior. I will not die with fear. And she called upon the river sprites to come and save her. But it wasn't river sprites that showed up. Suddenly, as Typhon reached down and bent to grab Aphrodite, these jets of water into both eyes from both sides. Pachoo, pachoo. I should have said pew, pew. He was just shot in the eyes with the water, and he had to straighten up, and he was wiping his eyes, and he fell to his knees. And then these tails wrapped around both Aphrodite and Eros and snatched her up. And suddenly they were swimming. They were moving faster than even Typhon could move. Aphrodite saw the cord around the fish, and she wrapped it around herself and her baby so that they couldn't be lost. And those fish, those Sumerian gods, took her out to the sea, to the Persian Gulf, and they kept her there, and they kept her safe until later Zeus and Pan were able to defeat Typhon and go to get her. Zeus really thought that Aphrodite was dead. He was certain that she did not exist. And when he found her on the beach with those two Sumerian gods still standing to protect her, he fell to his knees and he cried. And that is when Zeus put Pisces into the sky, so he could always look up at the protectors of the goddess of love. So I love that he made it the faintest constellation, because Pisces had retreated from the world and only came back to save their loved one, Venus. They loved her. And Zeus respected that and made it so people couldn't find them easily. And that is the story of Pisces. If you have any questions, I would love to see them. Any questions?
We are waiting for some questions. Let them get those little keyboards to typing. But so you were saying that Gaia, which is the spirit of the earth, was very upset about the gods. So,
Oh, yeah.
in the sense of what we've been told in, within the Bible and stuff, that earth was created by a god, in this sense, it's kind of saying that the earth was already here and the gods came to her.
With the Greek pantheon, Gaia created herself out of the void. In the beginning, there was only darkness and chaos, and her will was born from that, and she created herself.
I believe your cat's a Pisces, because she was.
I
really
believe my
getting
cat's.
down. She was getting down with the Pisces. All
I'm
right,
so
guys.
sorry about that.
No,
I can't
it's
just knock
funny.
her off the chair.
Because she was just getting down with it, and I'm assuming my little dog is too, because he's all of a sudden under my feet. And Kelly says that was a fabulous story. I would love to hear the backstory.
That was a difficult one to tell, because there was backstory, not only with what led to to Uranus being castrated. But
Mm-hmm.
there's also backstory on how Zeus retrieved his tendons and
Mm-hmm.
defeated Typhon, because even Zeus was afraid of Typhon. He was that horrendous. So there's so much backstory that
But
it
Gaia created Typhon through her from herself.
from herself, from herself. She
Would
she
that be? I'm sorry. Would that be? We have a good and a bad side to everything. Would you assume that would be her bad persona that she put forth in order to scare them?
Absolutely, absolutely, because she did have a very, very beautiful side. And there are Greek stories where she actually helped the gods. Um, After the defeat of Typhon,
Mm-hmm.
she worked with them closely. But up until that point, it was just, you took my realm away from me. And
Right.
her body was the earth.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
what you're doing to my skin, what you're doing to my waters, which was the blood in her veins.
yes. Yeah,
Wow. And they took advantage of that.
they truly did.
Now, I know this sounds silly, but this to me is more like because it was a woman, the feminine energy, the masculine dominant energy thought that they could do as they pleased versus uh, respecting who she was.
Oh, yeah, and it started with her husband Uranus, who was the sky god, and she
Mm-hmm.
created him so she wouldn't be lonely. And what
Right.
he did to her was really, really horrendous, and what he did to her children.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the gods were also her children.
But this is when Uranus was closer. Once upon a time, Uranus was closer to the Earth. And this is
Yeah.
also why the separation has happened.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love
Oh,
science and I
yeah.
love the mythology about it all. It's amazing, and got a lot of Pisces in here. Uh,
Yay,
Hey,
Pisces.
Taurus says I'm a Pisces. My birthday is tomorrow.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday! Hey, Kay, I haven't seen you in a while. So glad to see your beautiful face. It's amazing. And then Bernadette says Pisces here too. Squirrel, you have a real talent for storytelling.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Colleen said, "Happy birthday, K Taurus, if you're here listening." And Colleen gave you a bunch of hearts.
Yes.
All
I
right.
absolutely love that that story included the Egyptian gods
Yes.
and the Sumerian gods. And
Mhm.
Venus is exalted in Pisces. And that can help you remember that little tidbit if you're an astrologer, because exaltation, rulership, fall, all of that is really hard to memorize. But
Mhm.
with Venus being exalted in Pisces and those Sumerian gods coming to save her twice,
Yeah.
that's a real big deal. And it really speaks to that. And it speaks to the spirituality of Pisces. Because if you think about it, Sagittarius, or the ninth house, is about religion. And
Mhm.
religion is one God or one pantheon of gods. But
Yeah.
spirituality is accepting of all things and learning through from all things. So that's one of the things that gets me so excited about that story.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that a lot of people want to know why the fish, why make Pisces two fish.
I really do believe that it has something to do with the soul. Like
Mhm.
fish in the Sumerian times,
Mhm.
they did not eat fish. It was against their religion. We do know that. And I feel that fish were tied to the soul. And it's like living fish, not living fish, and their
Right.
souls were always tied together so that they couldn't be lost. That soulmates
Yeah.
or soul family could follow each other into the next path or the next part of the adventure.
Absolutely. Um, Cassidy said that her power got knocked out. By the way, and she
Ah,
said she'd be here if she could get here, but she's hoping the power would come back on. So she must be having some bad weather. I do believe they're having bad weather right now. Lots of snow. Lots of snow in her area. But
Yay.
so yeah, the symbol for Pisces too. Um, it looks like an H.
Yes, and the two, I guess you would call them parentheses, facing a
Yes.
bit away from each other. Those are the fish, and
Okay.
the line is the cord.
Yes. Oh, Cassie says I'm here now.
Oh, yay!
Crazy windy here. Ah, I knew there was a
Hope you did.
storm. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. So yeah, I mean that was a beautiful story. It has uh, lot of good qualities to it, but it also helps us realize that there is a story for why we have this and why we have that and what the gods were doing. So
I
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
She says, I'll catch up on the recording. And she gives you a big
Oh,
star. Yes, you missed a good one. They were ripping penises off and everything.
gotta love a good story with a penis in it.
Skwirl tells the best mythology of astrology stories ever. Absolutely. I totally agree with you, Cassidy. And you definitely got to catch up on this one, Cassidy. It was definitely a good one. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask about the story of Pisces? Would
Or
love
even
to.
astrology in general.
Yeah,
If
astrology in general. We'll be doing astrology shows here coming up in the near future. So, guys, get ready for that. It's going to be fun, fun, fun. Almost said in the sun, but it'll be at night. So,
sun, 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 and fun,
in the
fun,
moon
fun.
sun. In the
And
moon
yep.
sun. The moon sun. No
And I love
sunlight, it's just reflecting.
how Cassidy pointed out or asked in the last mythology of
Mm-hmm.
astrology, like that was about Aquarius. And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, does everybody have Aquarius in their chart?
Right.
Everybody has every sign in their chart. Just some of those signs don't have planets in them, but they do actually still have, like, we all have all of that energy. We
Mm-hmm.
just show some of that energy more strongly or in
Right.
other areas of life. So we all
Well,
do have,
closer the planet, the bigger the planet. That's why the moon has such a huge effect on us
absolutely,
because it's the
absolutely.
closest object to us. And the sun, of course, is enormous and is what gives us power. Without it, there would be no life here.
No
But
life at all.
definitely, this is an interesting story. And Gaia being the spirit of the earth, and a lot of people don't talk about her. She's actually forgot a lot of stories where she's like, they didn't mention her, but she was there because
We
where it
have
took
at
place.
least one more story where she shows up for the at least one more where she
Right.
shows up and possibly two. So
I mean, the thing is that, there are people here now and, people don't treat the earth that great. And we fail to remember in the summertime or in the springtime to plant plants and flowers and, not things that, oh, yeah, I plant a garden every year. Yeah, but you tear that garden down, you rip it up by its roots, it gets destroyed. I'm talking about a tree, a bush, a rose, something that comes back every year, something that's constantly giving back. It
yeah,
provides flowers, it provides leaves that, you know what I mean? And that's why I tell everybody planting plants is a great way to ground, especially when
yes.
the cosmos are like, ha, 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 boom, and you're like, shit, and you're not ready for it. I mean, how many months have we been going through Capricorn energy? I mean, the Capricorn energy has been ridiculous. And
It
Capricorn
has
is so direct, and sometimes they don't think when they speak. They just speak it, and then they think about it later and go, "Oh, I could have said that differently. I could have been a little bit nicer about that." How would you say that Pisces? How would you say Pisces is about their communication skills?
Pisces Pisces communication is a lot softer,
Right.
but there are a lot of times that Pisces has a hard time communicating
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it feels, especially with Mercury in Pisces, because Pisces has like this direct line to the universe.
Right.
Um, that is, it's like they're plugged in. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the information that they download or get,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know how to explain it to the rest of us because we don't have that information. So it's actually really hard for Pisces to communicate how they feel or what they know
Right.
because we haven't gotten that download. Um, One of my favorite Pisces is Einstein. And
Oh.
yeah, and Einstein is one of those Pisces that it's real easy to explain how that particular energy is so plugged into the universe. He was kicked out of university in England because he did not agree with what they were teaching and what they had been teaching for hundreds of years. He said, "You guys are wrong." And he was kicked out because he couldn't prove how they were wrong or why they were wrong. So he went for years struggling to explain his theories, struggling
Mm-hmm.
to find the math to prove what he already knew. And look how he changed science. And that was not something he learned. That was something he knew and had to learn how to communicate. So Pisces has a hard time communicating for that reason.
Is this that would be more of the reason why he wrote things down versus, you know, he just wrote everything down in order to communicate it. Because rather than speaking it to somebody, it would make no sense to them. It would be like speaking French to a German. They didn't know what that meant, so
He spoke in math.
yes, in
He
science.
thought in
Yes.
math, but math that was so beyond any of our science that he had to put it into writing so that other people could see it and go, "What? I get it now. Duh, you were
Absolutely.
right all along." Yep.
Wow.
And when he won the Nobel Prize in
Mhm.
1943, there's a type of astrology called progression.
Yes.
And what that says is that like each year of your life is one day of your natal birth chart. So it
Okay.
clicks forward. And it doesn't change your sun sign or your any of your planets, but it does taint how you see things with the
Hmm.
planets that the progressions move into. And when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, his progression had his Mercury in Pisces.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yes.
I want to know now what my progression would have been. Something else to learn, guys. Something else to learn. If you guys have any questions about Pisces, don't hesitate to ask. Go ahead and ask your question. If it's about Pisces or astrology, please don't hesitate to ask. And guys, if you're just now tuning in, you guys go back and watch the story, The Mythology of Astrology of Pisces. Um, Beautiful story. Can Gets a little gruesome, but we're grown. We can handle it. We can handle it. But yeah, that's an amazing story.
Thank you.
And the would say the argument, the fight. There was always a fight when it comes to these signs. There's always something that was disrupted.
Oh, that's part of the beauty of it is
Mm-hmm.
the 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 struggle, the challenges that those particular signs face are
Mm-hmm.
in the stories. So
Cassidy says, does Skwirl offer personal chart? Yes, she does.
yes, I
You guys
do.
can go to mypsychicconnection.com and get a chart read and analyzed by Psychic Skwirl. Absolutely beautiful. Has anybody else got any questions? And we know we got people here, but everybody's just listening to us chit chat, and that's fine with me. And so our next story coming up is Aries. what can only imagine what Aries has got going on.
Aries is actually the sun sign that got me started with my
Mm,
research and my love of the mythology with the zodiac signs. I've always loved mythology. And I was
yes.
like, why don't they teach this? And I started with Aries because it
Hmm.
just made sense. When I found out that the ram has a name, it was all over for me. That was like Research City.
Right, that's
Pisces,
Pisces and motherhood question mark.
um, I'm not sure what the question is,
Hmm.
but I do know as far as Pisces make very loving mothers for the most part. Pisces is like the personification of love and peace,
Because
you
it's
know?
got soft spoken too.
Yeah, soft spoken. It's
Hmm.
going to kiss the boo boos. The only problem
Yes.
we have to worry about is if, that's like the perfection of Pisces. But one of the challenges of Pisces with motherhood
Hmm.
is Pisces has a tendency towards escapism when it's unhealthy or unhappy. And so it will sweep a lot of problems under the rug. And it's also got that mutability, that adaptability, that I can't make up decisions. So it can also portray itself as inconsistency with discipline. So if you're a Pisces mother or father,
Hmm.
be sure that you have some way to utilize those parts of your chart to make sure you keep consistency and non escapism, because that is really hard on a child.
Oh, just based
Oh,
off.
just based on the protective, heroic mom from your story. Oh, absolutely. There was no way. Pisces will be the first to die for you. That's just period. Followed by Aries. Like
And
actually die.
Cancer is probably the one you're running from. You see the statistics about the murderers and the killers. Cancer is
Cancer,
number one.
Cancer's the one who said, I'll put you in this world, I'll take you out of it.
Exactly. I brought you in, I'm taking you out. We got Cassidy here. It says, I'm sorry if this was already addressed, but from the story, what Pisces traits were showcased the most from mythology?
Venus's inability to fight. Now there will be Pisces that can fight. There
Mhm.
are Pisces that usually full Pisces energy will peacefully resolve. They do not like conflict. But if you got a Pisces with Aries in its chart, it's going to rip your face off. Let's face it. But Pisces, that Venus's or Aphrodite's inability to fight was a big part of it. That she would go down with her baby, but she was not going to go down whimpering. She stood up and said, okay, I'm accepting this, but I'm going down with him. Her refusal to
Yeah.
leave that baby behind is a very big deal. Pisces will never leave you behind if you need them. And also the pure spirituality, the introduction of other gods, other pantheons, ancient gods. The Sumerian gods were thousands of years before the Greeks. And there are very, very few stories that include other gods that are not of the Greek pantheon in the Greek mythology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Good question. That was a
yes,
good
it was.
question. And so we just got just a little bit more time here with you guys. If you guys have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask um, about Pisces or astrology. And Cassidy says, amazing with the cute little white heart or gray heart. That's a great one. Okay, I'm
I,
colorblind over here.
I'll never
Hmm.
understand why they don't still teach the mythology for budding astrologers or even advanced astrologers.
Hmm.
That's such an integral part of it. And I, let me see if I can find in my notes who it was. But if you don't mind, it was okay.
No, go for it.
I've got of the amount of notes I have to the amount of what I said. It's I've got to weed it down to make it, but it's the Greek myth on the origins of the signs of Pisces has been cited by English astrologer Richard James Morrison as an example of the fables that arose from the original astrological doctrine, and that the original intent was afterwards corrupted by both poets and priests. So
Oh wow.
all mythology is corrupted by the poets
Yeah.
and the storytellers, myself included, because we embellish just that much to where, if you're thinking about it, this started 4,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And each telling of it, it had to be more exciting or regional. My regional heroes
Mm-hmm.
had to be involved. It's like the healing of Zeus with his tendons. Every region had a different telling of it, because it was a musician that saved his tendons and helped him heal. So every region, every country was like, that's our musician. So they would change the name to make their musician the best. It was very, very cool. So by the time it gets to now, we truly don't know what the original stories were. This is what we
Right.
have now. And even now, there are tons of different endings for each one.
Exactly. And Cassidy says, what signs are Pisces most least compatible with?
Most would be other water and earth signs, believe it or not. Pisces and Taurus, in my eyes, would just be amazing, though a lot of people would find it boring, but not the Pisces or the Taurus. um, I'd say Pisces and Taurus would be the best mix. I highly caution Pisces to not get involved with Virgos because of the mutability, and there would be no decision making. It could be very difficult, and Mercury, as is not only rulership, but it is also
Mm-hmm.
exalted in Virgo, and in Venus, or as you were, brain, in
Ta-da!
Pisces, Mercury is at its fall. So what that means is, remember how I explained about how Mercury has a very difficult time
Mm-hmm.
expressing what it knows and
Right.
how it knows it. And then you have Virgo, who is very logical minded. So you
Yes.
put that logic with that dreaminess, and that poor Pisces would never be heard or understood,
Right.
because Virgo wants results
Yes.
and explainable things. So I think that would be a brutal, brutal relationship for both the Virgo and the Pisces. They'd never
Cassidy
understand
did
each
said generational telephone, and
other.
she goes, like the kids game when the word phrase changes so much.
Exactly. And if it could change that much in a minute or two
Mhm.
minutes, how much has it changed in 4,000 years? I would
Right.
love to know. And there are, like when I was doing the research, so many different endings, so many different regional inputs, or completely different stories altogether. But I went with the ones that the historians and the mythologers said were the what they believe to be the most accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then so we've got Pisces, which they a lot of people state that Pisces is uh, psychic immediately.
That's that plug in with the universe. The
Mhm.
universe speaks to Pisces. There is no curtain between life and death with pure Pisces energy. So the universe can speak to them on multiple levels if the Pisces listens. But Pisces is definitely the most prone to multiple different psychic abilities. So yes, yes.
Um, Yeah, it's one of the things that I've noticed when we talk about the houses and things like that, where the Pisces is placed in the houses, and if it's placed in the eighth house, if it's placed in the 10th house, where is it placed? That also helps with the strength of the ability.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
That 12th house will always be the house that place where Pisces belongs, where its most natural placement. But like, oh wow, put Pisces in the eighth house.
Uh-huh.
This wow, yeah, yeah, you're gonna have a medium there. If you don't, there's that child was cut off from everything and told it was evil and wrong.
I believe that's where Pisces was in my chart, or was it Cancer in my chart?
It was Cancer in your
Yeah.
chart, which and Cancer is also all the water houses and signs are in some way related to death. Pisces is the end of things. The 12th house is the end
Mhm.
of things. That changing from living organisms to the soil that
Yes.
creates other living organisms. That's its mutability. Then you have the eighth house in Scorpio, who are related directly to death. And then the fourth house, which is Cancer, is
Mm-hmm.
related to the door of death.
Mm-hmm.
So they, because it is birth, Cancer is also related to birth. So they all have some relation to death. And you had Cancer Mercury in the eighth house, and we were
Yes.
laughing because we were both like, it literally says you speak to dead people.
And these would be facts. Um, but so if I'm looking at it, Pisces, March 21st is the end of the Pisces cycle, and
Yes.
then we go into Aries going on to the 22nd. Now that does change, but they
It,
have they
it,
have their dates that
yeah.
people use to mark the Pisces and Aries, and but it's right. You said it's death, and then right before it ends, it's birth as well, because it's the first day of spring.
It's that beautiful transformation of the death of winter
Mm-hmm.
becoming that cardinal Aries masculine energy that bursts into life. It's
Exactly.
oh my god, it's like poetry. I get so excited. It is poetry
Mm-hmm.
in actual motion, the entire cycle. One thing leads to another.
Exactly. And I love that. To me, and this is the way I've always celebrated, is the first day of spring is actually the new year. So this year, on the first day of spring, I will celebrate my New Year's, because I don't understand why we would celebrate a new year in the middle of where everything is fallen off, everything is dead, it's cold, it's not, it is not
That
new for me.
was not introduced until the Julian calendar,
Yes.
giving us 12 months. It used
Hmm.
to be the first day of spring was the
That's
new
what I
year.
celebrate.
But
Yes.
the introduction of the Julian calendar, separating the whole cycle
Mhm.
into 12, not only changed that, ooh,
Cassie says, interesting. I have the
Cassidy.
eighth house Pisces. Whoop, whoop, you go, girl. And
We're going to
just
have to play.
your excitement is infectious.
I hope so. Everybody looking up stories and looking up information. That's
Exactly.
the beauty of stories. It invites you to know more and to learn
Hmm.
more on your own. It's like I told you about that part with Gaia
Yes.
and Uranus, and then it tells you about Zeus and how did he escape and how did he recover enough to defeat Typhon. You guys, don't look at the first one you see because it's shallow. Keep digging and find out because it's so exciting.
It is. It's very exciting. And um, I know you would love to go through all all the books that I have
Yes.
hanging out in my library.
So many books that I don't have yet.
Yes.
I have
I'm
a
over here
lot, but
knocking things over here. The whole studio coming apart. Okay. So, yes, this is a good book.
yep, I'm drooling over that one. That one's going to have to become a part of my library.
I don't know why it's playing this game. Maybe I have to.
And I don't know if
It's
I'd
just
ever do
mythology.
anything with it. That's a beautiful book. I don't, but I would love to get, if they still have them, a
Hmm.
degree in mythology.
They
Like,
do.
I,
Yeah, those studies have not stopped.
I find it fascinating. The older I get, the more it excites me, and the deeper I dive with the stories. And it doesn't just stop at the Greek mythology, what little we know of the Sumerian mythology, and how it all ties together, and how
Hmm.
stories, even from Sumeria, we talked about it in Aquarius, the Great Flood. It's
Yeah,
in so many holy Bibles or books, as you were, in so many holy writings. It is part of culture worldwide.
right. It's
And
a part of who we are,
yes,
and it
yes.
affects us.
I
Whether
just,
people believe in that stuff, it does affect us. It has a story. There's a reason for it. It's a part of growth. It's the human experience.
yes, as
I
part
would
of the collective.
exactly, exactly. It will all make sense once we get to pass. Go to the other side and get that understanding.
And I think those fish that are tied together
Hmm.
are meant to lead us on the other side. It is the end, but it starts right back in the spiral with a new beginning.
Exactly. But the thing about that new beginning is don't follow the same circle. If
Yeah.
you're finding yourself in a hard time, don't continue to keep the same cycle. This is telling you it's time to change that cycle. Maybe it's time for bigger fish. Maybe it's time for new friends. Maybe it's time for a new job. Find that new circle. When it's time for your end and you feel like everything's come to a boil, it's time to change that for you so you could start that next cycle with something fresh, something new, something you could be proud of, something you can enjoy. If it's not enjoying to you, it's something to cut out.
And so many of us, and I've said this before,
Hmm.
we survive in life. There's so
Yes.
many of us that we either do what other people tell us we should be doing because they're just loud, or
Hmm.
because we want to win their respect, or we fall into a trap that I've been in myself many
Hmm.
times, of taking a job just to survive, to put food on the table. And it's like everybody says there are no rules, there are no blueprints when you have children, but there are. Astrology is the blueprints in the sky of how we can be the people we were meant to be, not what other people tell us to be, or not what we do to just survive. And it teaches you
Yeah.
how you can be happy. Even if you can't quit your job and go do what you were
Right.
meant to do, you can instill, incorporate what that job would have been into your life so that you can have some of that joy. We all veer from what our paths are. Free will. We have free will. But
Hmm.
it's because so very few of us know who we have the potential to be.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
hope that made sense.
It
I got
did. It
excited.
did. But we're coming down to the close of the show. So, um, guys, make sure you're tuning in each month. We're going to be talking about a different sign. Next month, we are going into Aries. So get ready for that. I can't wait. That is the first story, like she said, that got you started in the mythology of the astrology. And it kind of, you just went down the rabbit hole and just started going for all of them. Like, well, I know the story for this one. Now I want to know this one. And I want to know that one. I want to know them all.
Well, I looked it up. I looked up Aries because I was thinking it was going to tell me about what Aries was. Because a lot
Yeah.
of people think Aries is the
Mhm.
god of war, but they're two different.
Right.
Aries, god of war, is spelled Ares, and
Hmm.
Aries Aries, Aries. So I thought it was its name, and it was like the Latin word for goat or
Ah,
ram. I was like, seriously? So I typed in, does the ram Aries have a name?
mhm.
And then that was all she wrote.
Rabbit hole. Here I am. I'm all about it. But yes, but I cannot wait to hear that story. And guys, make sure that you tell your friends about this one. Hear the story of Pisces. It was an amazing story. Skwirl is absolutely beautiful. You're a great storyteller. I cannot wait to hear the rest of them. It's almost like I want to do them really fast so I know them all. But I love the pattern of doing them in the time of. And guys, welcome to Pisces. We are in Pisces season.
Let's hope it's a healthy Pisces
I
because
oh
it'll be
God,
beautiful.
Lord, I hope so. Lord, I hope so. But in order to find that out, watch the transits in you each week. Squirrel will go ahead and tell you guys what to expect when the transits are crossing our paths. And Cassidy says, Squirrel, thank you so much for bringing these stories to everyone. This this work is so deeply appreciated. Oh,
Thank you,
Cassidy,
Cassidy. Thank you.
such a sweetheart. And guys, we have come to the end. I'm going to let you go ahead and close it out. And guys, have a beautiful night. I'm out. I'm Journey Ryan. I'm going to leave you here with Squirrel.
Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I really enjoyed that. I was very excited about the story of Pisces. I'm very excited about all of them. So hope you keep joining me and finding out the origin stories of our zodiac. You guys, we will see you tomorrow night with Destiny K at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Destiny K, divine love and light. And mwah, bye.